Crazy time. But, all right, pays the bills.
That's part of it, right?
Yeah.
We thought it would happen. We hoped it would happen. It has happened. The Texas Rangers have agreed to terms with Nathan Eovaldi, a 3-year, $75 million deal, as our own Jeff Wilson has confirmed. Jeff, so glad you stuck around to get the big breaking news.
Yeah, I'd written a story in case it hadn't happened, based on some of the conversations I had today, that Nathan Eovaldi was the key to it all. All of their plans were contingent on Nathan Eovaldi signing or not signing. If he signed, then they can move on to the bullpen and do a bat. If he didn't sign, oh no, it was going to be a situation. And so to do this, I ended up writing this in the story I just posted. If this guy's your number one guy, and you have the money or close to the money, you got to do it, especially if it's going to screw the rest of your offseason. So get it done, and it looks like they did. It's pending a physical. That's why there's been no official confirmation from the Rangers. That's just the way they operate. Some sources in the industry, though, have told me that, yes, it's done. And, hey, it's time to celebrate if you're a Rangers fan, because a guy who is so important to the team, not just what he does on the mound, but what he does in the clubhouse, is coming back for 3 years.
Yeah, and Jeff, you kind of, proposed the question to Bruce Bochy today, how, if they were to move in a different direction, how would you replace that leadership? Talk about the leadership that Nathan Eovaldi offers, because it's more than stats on a page. What Nathan Eovaldi offers to a club, not only his experience, not only his poise, his postseason dominant, that he kind of goes into, but so much of it is what he can do for players in the clubhouse. Just kind of reiterate that conversation again today with Boch.
100%. You're 100% right. And for those of you, this is pretty exciting, John. This is our first emergency pod.
It is, and our first emergency pod is brought to you by Indeed, and we thank the folks at Indeed, and we've told you all about Indeed many, many times, and what a great job they do in connecting people with those jobs that are out there. Tonight, they're connecting you with good news, right? Good news that the Rangers have done what they needed to do. As we exited the draft lottery today, Jeff, we had a conversation with the significant Rangers personnel who were saying, basically, to add to Abby and Boch's point, that, look, it's not just about who Nathan Eovaldi is, how he pitches, what a leader he is, but it's about the entire rest of the offseason. Like if Evo isn't signed, we pretty much throw the whole plan up and start over again. And that is one of the reasons it was so important to get this done.
Well, and the reason for that is because after Eovaldi and Corbin Burns, for that matter, there's not a great starting pitching option free agent wise. So Rangers would have to turn to a trade. Okay, there's no guarantees that's going to get done, because they're not the only ones who are looking for mid-tier, upper mid-tier starting pitching. So then would they have gone to the bullpen? Would they have just said, the hell with it, we're putting $50 million into the bullpen? I'm not sure. Bullpens are a roll of the dice. They're kind of a crapshoot. It can be, unless you have a stud closer like Todd Jones. Then it's a given. But
he paid you to say that.
No, he walked by earlier though. But, it's just it can't be overstated how important this is. And that's that person we were talking to, John. He texted me and said, "Thank God." Yeah, that's how important this was to the Rangers.
Yeah, Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. It's wonderful.
No,
And go ahead, Nance. Yeah.
Well, I was just saying, I mean, the winter meetings are all about connecting with people in baseball. And, I got the chance today to talk to someone from the A's organization, Chris Townsend. And, I kind of asked him something that we've been talking about, which is the Luis Severino deal. I mean, a 2 year, $67 million. Nathan Eovaldi is better than that guy. I mean, that's just fact of the matter. So we were kind of talking about the fact that if that's what he's going to make, then this Nathan Eovaldi deal has to be a little bit sweeter. My dad kind of mentioned maybe it's the floor for the offseason trade. And Rad's, shout out to you. You were spot on this entire time. 3 years, $75 million. 3 years, $75 million. That's what it's going to take for the Rangers to get this deal done. And that's what they had to do. But I do think that the A's deal played a big part in this contract that we just saw from the Rangers.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt about that. Look, the Kikuchi deal. We had Ron Washington on with us today. We'll run that interview in a couple of days. But, the Kikuchi deal with the Angels had a significant impact on this, right? The market for pitchers right now is extremely high. The guy we were talking to, the significant Ranger personnel, was saying that there's a lot of money out there, but there's a lot of money going to pitchers right now, right? And so they realized that, and they knew they had to step up, and that was wise. Now, if you saw, if you followed John Moore, our buddy John Moore, who did great work for us today and who's with Jeff every week on the weekly show, John and I were standing there at the draft lottery talking about it, and I said, "You got to go 3 for 75 with Evo right now." It's just, and he said, "I'd even throw in a 4th year with an option," and I didn't disagree with that. But anyway, that's what they've done, and that ensured it, right? I think that is the point of, Jeff, when they target a guy, they targeted Higashioka, right? They made sure they went out and got him. I think that's the same thing they've just done, the statement they've made with Nathan Eovaldi.
Well, they always seem to get the guy they really, really want.
Yep.
I think in the offseason, spring training, I think they really, really wanted Cease. I think that's the only miss that they've had, and they thought they had done all they could there to do that. And then to go ahead and to lock up a really good catcher. Okay. I mean, Kyle Higashioka is not going to, for lack of better words, he's not going to, come out in 72-point headline print in a newspaper, but this Eovaldi deal will. And he was so good in the postseason, obviously. 6 starts, 5 wins. Didn't lose any of his starts. Corey Seager to thank for one of those. But the fact of the matter is that when Chris Young sets out to get his guy, he gets his guy. That's just it. That might be a message to the rest of baseball if the Rangers have the money. Let's caveat that if the Rangers have the money. And and Eovaldi, Chris Young said it today. Eovaldi, he's not top of the market. He's not Corbin Burns. He's not Juan Soto. He's not Jacob deGrom, at least contract wise. But
he's not Max Fried.
Right, but to the Rangers he is.
Yep.
And for them to be able to play at this price, if Eovaldi were 5 years younger, I don't think the Rangers would be in on this. But he's not. He's going to be 35 on February 13th. He has some injury track record, but none of that matters to the Rangers because of what he does in the clubhouse. And again, where they are financially, they have the money, they think they do all this stuff, but still, this is where they play, and they played it as best as they can. And they probably paid more than they wanted. If we're being honest,
sure.
They probably paid more than they wanted. The Kikuchi and Severino deals kind of set the market, and like Abby said, he's better than both of them. I think he's $4 million a year better than Kikuchi, and he's probably a million or two better than Severino. So that's what the market set. All right, the Rangers didn't set the market. The market was set for them, and that's where they went.
And to be honest, if you look at this deal, this is almost an investment in the Rangers, because Nathan Eovaldi with Kamar Rocker and Jack Leiter, what he can add to their game in the long run is exponential. So really, if you're kind of playing smart money moves here, I mean, we've talked about his on-field performance just as much as his, clubhouse and off-the-field dominance and relationships there. So yeah, I mean, it is a lot of money, but you are pouring it back into your system with a guy that is so involved in the development process and helping players reach their full potential. I mean, when we talk about Nathan Eovaldi, we mentioned him with Bruce Bochy and Mike Maddox as kind of like a checklist for the Rangers and the guys in the pitching staff to kind of walk through. So for the Rangers to do this, I think it not only says a lot about what they believe in Nathan Eovaldi, what they believe in this club right now, but it also is pouring into, the younger guys in their clubhouse just because of the kind of guy that Nathan Eovaldi is. And that's not why they did it, but it's the cherry on the top. You know what I mean?
Well, it's a perfect example. I mean, that's exactly right. And Eovaldi, it's not just going to be when they get to the big league clubhouse. He starts talking to these guys in spring training. He texts minor leaguers during the season and says, "Hey, why don't you work on this?" It gives them little tips, and it's invaluable. And when they get up there, they feel more comfortable. He's helped Mark Church with the split finger fastball. Mark Church was on the weekly show a couple weeks ago and just talked about how that pitch has come along and how Eovaldi's helped him. And they all talk about, in loving terms, this guy and what he means to them. And it goes for everybody. He watches bullpens. He'll go out during the middle of the regular season and watch Jacob deGrom or Max Scherzer or Cody Bradford throw a bullpen. And then he'll give them feedback. And Bruce Bochy, if you guys haven't seen that interview today, he said he's an extra set of eyes and ears for Mike Maddox. And I know Mike Maddox is thrilled that Eovaldi's back. So it's I mean, I've said it 1,000 times. This is huge for the Rangers' offseason plans. This was the domino. If it fell the right way, everything's going to go one way. If it had gone the other way, game over. They would have had to start from scratch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't remember if it was you or Abs, Jeff, that asked Coach specifically about that leadership piece when it comes to Eovaldi. And by the way, Prophet keeps hitting us on the phone. Rads, get closer. Oh, wait, you're too close. So I'm sorry if this is what you're seeing, right? But hey, it's our first emergency pod, for God's sake. So give us a break. But we're working through the logistics of it. And we will be back tomorrow. By the way, with that Boch interview, the entire Boch interview, we will air tomorrow. And you'll want to see it, because it's all still going to pertain, even though we were asking, what if Evo? It is Evo.
Wink, wink.
They've signed Evo, and it's fantastic. It's great news. We'll run that tomorrow at 4:00 on the pod. But for this purposes of this show, it is just like celebration time. I love seeing all the chat going on right now. Thank you for hanging out with us, because we were ready for this. We were hoping for this, and here it is. Nathan Eovaldi has signed a 3-year, $75 million contract. We thank Indeed for allowing us to do this emergency podcast, and we thank you for hopefully not the last emergency pod of the week. We take that smoke show, no doubt about that. Maybe they'll sign that reliever next, right? But when we were talking,
it's onto the bullpen now. Onto the bullpen.
When Jeff and I were talking to our guy earlier today, I think the word was, we haven't even started on relief yet. We haven't even started on closer yet, because they knew they needed to get this done first.
100%. That's right. Go ahead, Abby.
Jeff, I kind of wanted to ask you, because, we were kind of talking about historically the Rangers' presence at the winter meetings. And you kind of said, hey, don't expect much. I mean, we go, but the Rangers notoriously don't have a lot of breaking news. But this is, one of the first. What do you think about, just this presence right now? Is this a CY thing? Is this a Ross Finstermaker thing? Like, you've been here the longest. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the market kind of dictated it because there wasn't a lot left where the Rangers wanted to play. And the guy who was left was Eovaldi, and he had other offers. So, they couldn't kind of pussyfoot around this one. But to what I said earlier, since Chris Young has been on his own, and even when he wasn't on his own, even there when he and John Daniels were partners, they went out and got stuff done. They had a deadline in 2020 before the lockout started. They wanted to get guys signed, so they went out and signed 4 guys: Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, John Gray, and Cole Calhoun. They come out of the lockout right away. They trade Kiner Falefa for Mitch Garver, and then they go and get Martin Perez. Two signings that were huge those 2 years. So then this offseason, or even last offseason, all right, didn't have a lot of money, didn't have to do much in theory. So shore up the bullpen, get a veteran. Who do you get? Boom, Kirby Yates. All right, how did that work out? Pretty damn good. And all but I skipped 22 offseasons of 22. Out of nowhere on a Friday night, I'm driving around to some damn program with my kids, and the Rangers announced that they signed Jacob deGrom. Okay,
Yep.
That was the Friday before the winter meetings. On the Monday, they agreed to sign Andrew Heaney. So I mean, when they set their sights on something, the last, let's say, 4 winter meetings or last 4 off seasons, they've gone out and done.
Yeah. It's fantastic, and it's this year. It starts with Kyle Higashioka. We found out right away once he had signed. They called him on the first day of free agency, right?
Right.
This is who we want, and we talked about this, I think, off the air today. But just the importance of sending that message to that player. We want you so bad. We're calling you on the first day of free agency. And look, we know the truth. They talked to Nathan Eovaldi, because he's their own free agent, long before the first day of free agency,
right,
to assure him
100%.
we want you back, right?
Yeah.
And but they've been talking to him throughout the offseason. Teams are allowed to talk to their own free agents,
right, during
the playoffs and until the first 5 days after the World Series. He can only talk to his team, and the Rangers talked to him. And then when free agency opened, they kept talking to him. So he knew, and then deep down, I think this is where he wanted to be. He knows the geography is great. He's won with this team, and even though last year sucked, he knows what's coming back. He saw Rocker and he saw deGrom pitch in September and really liked it. And I'm sure that he spoke with Chris Young and needed the assurance. What's it going to take for you guys to be competitive for however long I am here? The window's open. Guys have to be healthy and all that stuff, but they have to be willing to make the financial commitments. He's probably able to tell them stuff about the TV deal that he hasn't told anybody else. He probably talked to Ray Davis, to be perfectly honest. Maybe he talked to Bruce Bochy about beyond this year and Mike Maddox beyond this year. But, one year of those guys is going to be fine to get them off on the right foot. Maybe finish off, not finish off, but get Rocker and Leiter in better places where at the end of the year they don't need the tutelage of the 2 wizards, Maddox and Bochy. So it just seems like whatever he needed to be convinced of, Chris Young provided.
Yeah, I agree. And let's talk about, now I don't want to say issue, but just what the Rangers are presented with. I mean, they have a almost 8 deep rotation, which we know is a few too many. Jacob deGrom, Nathan Eovaldi, Tyler Mahle, John Gray, Cody Bradford, Kumar Rocker, Jack Leiter, Dane Dunning. And not everybody has necessarily earned that spot in their rotation, but, we did talk to Bruce Bochy today. We've alluded to maybe John Gray going to the pen. Bruce Bochy shared his thoughts on that. So, where do you see this rotation now? Because Bruce Bochy was reiterating health, availability, and innings pitched. And, John Gray is one of the few that did make it to 100 innings pitched this season. But in that rotation, where does he really fit now?
Yeah, well, we asked Chris Young, or I asked Chris Young some version of not the John Gray question, but a question about how are you going to construct the bullpen? Is it going to look like 5 multiple inning guys and 3 late inning nails guys? And he said, if you look at the way starting rotations are these days, very few people pitch 200 innings. 180 innings is a lot. You're looking at a lot of guys who throw 150 innings, 140 innings.
Yeah, 150
and that's not enough. So, they know that DeGrom and Rocker aren't going to be able to fully go. But so like he said, you might need 12 starting pitchers. You just who can be ready. So I don't know how they're going to do it. They still need veteran late inning guys, right?
Yeah.
High leverage pieces, whether it's Kirby Yates or Tanner Scott or a rebound candidate like AJ Minter, somebody like that, who can come in and be a veteran piece. Say what you will about Will Smith and the way he pitched in the second half, but that guy was a bulldog and a guy who'd been to, at the time, won 2 straight World Series, won a third. You need a guy like that. You do. You need a veteran guy to teach all these young guys what to do and how to handle things, no matter how talented they are. A lot of these guys haven't been in that fire yet. And it's, you might have saved a bunch of games at AA, but who gives a crap? All right. Put 3 decks on it and go out there and face the best hitters in the world. It's an entirely different beast. So you need a veteran. Well, they're gonna sign multiple veterans. I think that's a certainty. But then with these other starters, you're looking at some guys who might end up in the minors who shouldn't be in the minor leagues to start the season. It really sounds like Cody Bradford's going to be on the team in some way, shape, or form. Just listen to the last few days.
Yeah.
Guys just keep saying Cody Bradford in the rotation. Cody Bradford, So I'm not sure how it's all going to come together. But the Rangers do have a bunch of starters. They have a bunch of starters who might be limited this season. But now they have Eovaldi. If this allows John Gray to pitch in the bullpen, or if they are unable to sign a closer and they want John Gray to do it, okay, they kind of have that flexibility now. But I think their focus is on acquiring enough starters and swing guys also. And I think they have a pretty good feel for those, but they can't all be on the major league staff. Some of them have to be in the minors, still working as starters, so that if the need arises, they have a guy that can come and throw 6 innings, let's say.
Yeah, and I don't want to give away the whole Boach interview, which we're going to run tomorrow. But when we asked him about Gray to the bullpen, there's some subtext when a guy answers a question, right? There are his words, but then there's also what you feel about how he felt about that. And it felt to me as if when I think it was you, Jeff, that asked about Gray to the bullpen, he was like, oh, we've never even thought of that. Almost, right? It was like, oh, no. And he calls him Johnny. Oh, no, we need Johnny. We need Johnny as a starter. And in that context, you'll hear it tomorrow. He mentioned Cody, just like you're saying, right?
Yeah.
He mentioned Johnny and Cody as starters. He would have a nickname for Cody, but Cody's kind of a nickname, right? So he's like, yeah, we need those guys as starters. Now, to your point, now that there's one more starter in tow, perhaps that does free one of them to be in the bullpen.
Well,
but look, if you've got 8 starters, that's a good problem to have.
Right.
That's a good problem.
Well, what I was going to say, again, apples and oranges, but when we did mention Josh Smith, I mean, one thing that we know about Bruce Bochy, if you have proven that you deserve a spot out there, he's going to find a spot out there. I mean, Bruce Bochy has been around the game long enough to know that too much personnel is not a problem that's, he's going to be fazed by, because if you've worked hard and you've shown that you should be there, he will find a way to get you in. Now, Cody Bradford, we've been saying this about, the sweetest guy in the Rangers clubhouse. Oh, I'm just grateful to pitch for the Texas Rangers. I'll be wherever they want me to be. And we love that for Cody Bradford. But truth be told, he's pitched well enough to deserve a spot on the starting rotation. It's not up to me where that is going to be, but Boach does have a really interesting problem once again. I mean, you've got a lot of great personnel to choose from, but I can tell you one thing, Jacob deGrom is Jacob deGrom, but also he's coming off of Tommy John surgery. Nathan Eovaldi led the Rangers in inning pitched this season, and then Andrew Heaney was just behind him, who the Rangers don't have currently. Then it was John Gray, and then next, or actually it was Jose Urania out of the bullpen. So, one thing about the game of baseball is you do want to get the guys that can provide those innings, those starting opportunities in the rotation.
Yeah, and make no mistake, and we're going to talk to some of you guys with your questions here, but make no mistake, Cody Bradford, by pitching as well as he did last year, did not earn himself anything in the rotation next year, right? He earned himself a chance to be looked at in spring training, right? Especially a young guy like that. You get to compete to be a starter next year, and that will happen at spring training. That's certainly not the case for Nathan Eovaldi, right? Nathan Eovaldi's in. Jacob deGrom is in. But the young guys, we talked to Wash about this today. All he wants is guys who want to earn it, right? And Cody Bradford's going to earn it. We saw that enough from him last year. There's lots of questions coming through about all of this. One of them was, does the Nathan Eovaldi signing affect the TV deal? No, it doesn't. What it does, though, to us is sort of give us a hint at what the TV deal is, which is, as we knew it would be, pretty good, right? Chris Young told Jeff and the other beat writers yesterday, we're going to operate this. We know enough about the TV deal to know that we can operate this offseason as normal. And I think this is an indication of that, Jeff.
Right. And we say this a lot. Ray Davis has more money than we're ever going to see in our lifetime, and he can spend it. And I know this. He enjoyed winning the World Series, and I know there are a lot of people out there who think he's complacent, and there are some Rangers people who think that. If I'm being perfectly honest, okay, but he knows that he saw what a winning product can do for a team. I know the Rangers didn't win this year, but they won last year, and there are a lot of butts in the seats this year. All right, a lot of merchandise got sold, a lot of copies of my book got sold. All right, I'm very thankful for that, Rangers fans. So I want to do another one. All right, but Ray Davis does too, and he if he knows that money's going to come in. He knows how a business works. He can spend it now, and it's like he put it on his credit card, and he's going to pay it off as soon as the TV deal is done, right? I mean, it's just business, and I am looking forward to that. I think that's the next big thing. That's got to happen this month, I would think. Sasaki's going to be January. I'm sure that they'll meet with him between now and the signing, obviously, but I think the real next big shoe to drop, Rangers-wise, is going to be the TV deal, or at least an idea of how they're going to do it, where they're going to do it, and who's on board to do it with them.
Yeah, and I think that's coming very soon. Intel that I've worked on says that sooner rather than later. I think we'll definitely hear before Christmas what exactly the Rangers are doing. They're putting lots of plans in place, and it's a big project. I mean, it's not easy because it's completely different from the way that the whole Fox Sports did it and set it up, where it was a 5-state region, and people, Rangers fans in Louisiana, Oklahoma, New Mexico, even parts of Arkansas were getting Fox Sports Southwest. I hate to even mention the B word sometimes, right? It was Fox who put that all together. And so I believe that the Rangers in their perfect world would like that to happen again. But if you're doing it by yourself, you have to go to individual affiliates in each of those areas and say, would you like the Rangers? Would you like the Rangers? It's called building a network. And that's what the Rangers are trying to do right now. and it's taken a little longer than maybe we thought it would. But that's the process that's ongoing right now, and I really do think they're very close to knowing how, where, and what we're going to watch. And I'll say this to the Rangers fans who are asking about it: it will be remarkably easier to watch Rangers baseball than it has ever since Bally took over. It was easy when Fox was in charge. Once Bally took over, it was a lot harder, and that's very unfortunate. Nobody hated it more than those of us who worked for Bally. But this next step, this next phase is going to be easy. You're going to turn on your TV, boom, Ranger baseball.
Yeah, but baseball is a business. The TV deals are a big part of that business. I mean, it's one reason that the Dodgers are able to spend so much money because of their $3 billion TV deal. So, I guess maybe to some fans, it seems kind of confusing as to why you have to wait on one to get the other. But, they do go hand in hand, and you can't promise money that you're not going to have or things like that. So the TV deal is a huge part. And, I totally agree, Rads. I think that's probably the next shoe to fall because Nathan was such a priority. You knew you had to lock that down. Now that you have priority one, go ahead and figure out the logistics, and then you can get all of your ducks in a row, kind of.
Yeah, this sends a lot of messages, right? This sends the message, and I asked you two somewhat rhetorically, and we batted it around. Your dad was on too on Monday. I asked somewhat rhetorically, look, the Rangers know they're going to get some money from TV, right? It's going to happen. Why can't we do something, right? And they just answered that. They did, right? They did. They got Eovaldi done, and they got him done for more than we were thinking it was going to take to get him. But the market, as you suggested earlier, Jeff, the market dictated it's going to take 3 for 75, and they did it. And good for them. And that says there's some confidence in the organization that the TV deal is going to be what it should be and what we think it will be.
Yeah, or it's headed that way. Maybe it's not all coming this year, but pieces will be in place for it to build into that, and still get fans to the ballpark, buying hot dogs and parking and soda pops and beer to help supplement, and T-shirts and help supplement the differences and make it all work out in the end and keep Ray Davis from squeezing his checkbook.
Well, we sure don't want him to lose any money.
I guess like, the rumor mill, I guess, around winter meetings would be that the other big contender was the Braves, the Atlanta Braves. And, we maybe heard New York or Boston again. But I spoke today to John Morosi, and he gave me kind of a one-on-one exclusive. And he said, I think Braves is probably the biggest contender. When we, have that meeting with Eovaldi and talk to him about logistics of the deal, is there anybody that you're interested to hear may have been like a dark horse in the contract?
I wouldn't be surprised if the Orioles were involved. They have a new owner, and they can re-sign Corbin Burns, but they're not interested in giving anybody who has a qualifying offer a deal because they don't want to lose a draft pick, and Eovaldi didn't have a qualifying offer. I'd wonder if I doubt any West teams did. Though I would be interested to hear about the Astros. I mean, that's where he's from. They need to replace some starters. They have some starting pitching injuries. So I wonder if the Astros snuck in there. So that would be my, if there's a dark horse in this thing, or a mystery team, as some of the national guys have made famous, I wonder if it wouldn't have been the Astros.
Yeah, no,
or the Rays. Yeah. The Rays are another one. Maybe the Rays.
Yeah, no doubt. And lots of questions about Sasaki. And Jeff, you had a chance to talk with his agent today. And I said hello to him, but that wasn't much news. But look, he indicated that a small market team might just fit Sasaki's personality better. Yeah. And we've thought about that. And so I think that'd be just awesome. Again, San Diego appears to be, or they're confident, let me put it that way. that they're the front runner. And that's a small market too, but it's very close to an awfully big one.
Huge.
In Los Angeles. They've almost merged, you know?
Right. No, I would say that I listened to Joe Wolf. I didn't talk to him. I listened.
Okay.
And it was very fascinating, you know, I don't know anything about Sasaki, and not a lot of people do, you know. It turns out, you know, he's 23. At some point here, he's lost his father already. He's a family guy. Apparently the Japanese media is not happy about him wanting to go to the major leagues, and they, you know, at a young age, you know, because players before him would serve the 9 years, you know, or 8 years or whatever it is to become a free agent after, you know, in Japan. And he doesn't want to do that. And so he's gotten some stuff about that. And I guess that it's kind of taken off like TMZ, and there been some, or maybe not TMZ, but a different tabloid. And there's been some stories written about his family that weren't right or that he didn't care for. So, you know, a big media market is going to do that kind of stuff. They're not going to make stuff up, but they're going to write a lot of things that Roki Sasaki probably does not want to be written. And that may happen here. If, let's say he were to, you know, there's going to be little web click stories, you know, web hits. You know, there are outlets here that live on web clicks. I used to work for one, and you know, oh, Roki Sasaki, who's his girlfriend? You know, and a story like that. Yeah. You know, it's something that's going to tick him off. But a couple of my takeaways from that were that he doesn't like the media or a big media. So that's a good thing for the Rangers and a bad thing for the reporters, let's say. He doesn't necessarily need to live on the West Coast as long as where he plays has a direct flight to Japan. Well, you can catch one of those at DFW, probably a couple a day, you know? Yeah. And so there's that kind of looks good for Rangers. He just sounds like a fit for the Rangers. You know, sounds like a highly driven guy. Doesn't need to necessarily have a Japanese teammate. So maybe that's works against the Padres. I don't know. You know, a lot of these guys from Japan want to come over and be the first in a long time in the Rangers case. And those were Joe Wolf's words, not about the Rangers, but just intimating, the Astros, or not the Astros, the Mariners haven't had a Japanese player in a few years. I think Kikuchi was their last one. You know, I get confused on when Ichiro retired and unretired, but you know, but I mean, Ichiro's a whole other category. Maybe he doesn't want to go there because of Ichiro, but Iwakuma pitched there, who was really, really good. I think Chris Young was teammates with Iwakuma, so maybe that's something to ask Chris Young down the road. Did he learn anything about, you know, how Japanese pitchers need to be taught by being teammates with Iwakuma? So I just, my impression was it was like, hey, the Rangers got a chance at this guy. Just listening to what Joel Wolf said. Yeah.
And, you know, I was kind of talking with a friend, part of the Dodgers organization, and just some takeaways from, you know, the first year with Ohtani. I mean, Japanese media is really different because, yes, they're athletes, but they're also like a phenomenon, like a big celebrity, and they kind of cover them in that way too. And where, you know, maybe focuses on just the sport or things on the field, they are maybe a little bit more inclined to ask those questions about the personal life and get to know more of the player. Whereas, you know, American media will learn some information about a player. We take it, you know, in the back of our brain because knowledge kind of contributes to maybe what they do on the field. We're not going to dig too much into their personal lives. That's not something that they want. So yeah, I mean, I could see a smaller market media, you know, being appealing to him if that is something that he's had to deal with so much in his career. Maybe he just wants to come to a, you know, quote unquote smaller team and just be a guy that's really good at baseball, talk about baseball, put his hat on and go, you know, and the Rangers are really, really good at that. I mean, Jacob deGrom has shared, you know, how much he enjoys talking to the media here. And, you know, Max Scherzer, haven't heard those words necessarily out of his mouth, but just out of the other markets, you know, in the world of baseball, we're really grateful and thankful to work around some pretty great people in the industry.
Well, Abs, you and I had a long conversation with our buddy John Blake today. And John Blake was actually interviewed, I found out, by two separate Japanese media to get a sense of the playbook that the Rangers have used
Yeah.
with Japanese pitchers, right? And John was proud of the fact that he thought this interview might help, right? It might sway sort of a public opinion, a thought in Japan that, look, here's a team that knows how to do this. And there's no better example than how they did it, Jeff, with Yu Darvish. I mean, the Rangers did a great job with Yu Darvish. John was reminding us, I think he said he had 200 extra media on Darvish's first day at spring training. 6
Yeah, he did say that.
TV networks.
Well, John Blake cut his teeth on Daisuke Matsuzaka with the Red Sox.
Right.
So when he came to the Rangers, 2 years after he came to the Rangers, or 3 years, is when they got Darvish. And so they all knew John. You know, all the Japanese media knew John. Now, the first day of spring training, John, I don't remember if you were there or not, because there were, like I said, hundreds of people there.
Yeah, I think I was.
It was crazy. You know, the day, 2 days before the first day, he threw a bullpen session. And of course, he wasn't going to talk to the Japanese media, but the Rangers provided the catcher who did it. It was a minor league, a guy in camp on a minor league deal. I think his name was Luis Martinez. Nobody's ever heard of him since or heard of him before then, but he was a star for a day in Japan, right?
Yes.
And then the day that Darvish was there for his first workout, his parents were there. Okay, and his dad is Iranian, his mom is Japanese, but they met in college in Florida. They both speak perfect English.
Perfect.
So this guy's answering our questions. You know, Yu Darvish speaks really good English, and he did back then, even though he uses an interpreter. So I mean, it was crazy because there were guys who brought ladders, cameramen who brought ladders so they could see above the crowd.
That's hilarious.
Like wherever he went, there were 125 people behind him, just flying. And you know, they would set up that year. They set up, you know, like an old school temporary building. When your school overflow, you had the tent buildings in the back. There was a tent building for the Japanese media.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then going forward the next year, I think they put them across the street, like in the swimming pool area in Surprise. They built a tent in the courtyard at the Rangers facility strictly for Darvish interviews. That's the only reason why I was there. And it killed the grass and everything, but that was where Darvish would talk after his starts in spring training, and it was crazy. But his very first start, ton of people at Globe Life Park. He pitched against the Mariners and gave up like 5 or 6 runs in the first inning and wasn't very good, but he hung around. But it slowly diminished. The pool got smaller, and that'll happen with Sasaki. It'll be a big deal, you know, and it'll get smaller and smaller. But there are a lot more Japanese players to cover now too.
True.
You know, beyond Ohtani, they're all over the league these days, and you know, even the little guys, even the minor Japanese players, they've got a reporter, you know, or they rotate coming in and checking in on them, whatever it is. But there's a presence. So I don't think it'd be as big as with Ohtani.
No.
The caveat being that a lot of the Japanese media is going to be in Tempe or in Glendale with the Dodgers. And so they can just drive 20 minutes up the road.
Yeah, 2 birds, 1 stone, for sure.
Yeah, and you know, Yamamoto is over with the Dodgers as well. Darvish is in Peoria with the Padres. Suzuki and the left-hander are with the Cubs now. Yeah, Emoda. Yeah. So they're with the Cubs. They're across the valley, but you know, depending on traffic, they're an hour away. So there's going to be some Japanese media in the area for spring training. But once the season starts, after that first start, it'll gradually die out. So once he gets to, if he understands that, you know, but it's not like these Japanese media are jerks. At least the ones here, they're very respectful. They only have one guy to cover, so they have to write the shit out of it. Pardon my language, but he's not always available. So that's where they come up with stories about John Blake, you know,
right.
Just you know, all kinds of things. So I love the Japanese media. They're the blessing of Yu Darvish was that group and how great they are to work with, and you know, it's you know, it made me a lot of money in freelance stories. So I'm thankful for you, Darvish, and the Rangers for that. But it is a circus. It'll be like its first day of camp, first start, first regular season start, and then it just kind of never goes away. But it peters down to a certain group that he'll get to know, recognize them. He'll see them a lot, and it'll make him more at ease. But to Abby's point about our market, we don't go out and try to bust anybody's balls. All right, those days are gone. We don't get the access. With social media, it's different. We're not trying to make friends with these guys. You have to have relationships with them, and your relationships get to the point where they understand. Yeah, I'm in an 0 for 30 slump, and I really suck right now, and I know you have to ride it.
Yeah.
All right. So they don't hold any grudges against you for that. But if you go after their family, they're going to go after you. So keep it between the lines.
Yeah.
Keep it professional, and don't egg them on. And don't just keep doing it and being up their butts the whole time. It's going to be fun. It really is. And I think that's the way I've sensed it here now, my 18th season covering the team. You do sense, to Abby's point, now year 2 of Jacob DeGrom, just go up to his locker and talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even have to have a recorder, or just go up and talk to him and say, how's it going? How are you? How are your kids? I don't know if that took place in New York, so it's just it is a different animal than New York. Let's say LA, Chicago, Philly. Those are probably the big ones. Maybe San Francisco a little bit with the Giants, but not the team that used to be across the bay. There just aren't many teams where you're like using your elbows to get room at a daily briefing with the manager, or trying to get in there and find an angle that nobody else is writing about I don't know, Jake Latz. It's just not like that. It's not easy, because we're going to talk to you, good or bad. God forbid you get arrested or suspended, or hit somebody, or punch Jose Batista. We're going to talk to you. But it doesn't happen often, and we're an amicable group. We're a small group, especially on the road, and so I can't imagine that our media market, even with the televisions, we have the big stations, and they're going to have a new TV partner or whatever it's going to be. I can't imagine it would be at all overwhelming to Sasaki compared to other markets.
Yeah, the context on Darvish a little bit too, Jeff, is a couple things. One, the other thing John Blake said is Japanese media is not that unlike ours in that there's less money in Japanese media right now, right? So there's not as many of them. There's not as many networks paying for that type of content and so forth. The other thing to remember, when Darvish came here, he was married, or at least with, I can't remember if they were married, but his significant other was like the Taylor Swift of Japan. I mean, he was with a woman who was a pop superstar in Japan as well, which I think brought more of the Japanese TMZ element into the picture as well.
Yeah, she was a star. I think she was a soap opera star, John.
Okay.
And they weren't together yet, but they had kids together.
Okay.
Or they were no longer together, but they had kids together. And then it was a couple years after that where he met the woman who's now his wife, and they've been married for a long, long time. She was she was an Olympic wrestler.
Yeah.
In Japan, imagine that. And but they've had multiple children since then. But yeah, he did have at least one kid with who was, and I've heard her described as like a D-list celebrity, but by God, they were married, and they were the power couple in Japan. They were Tom and Giselle, I guess. I don't know, but
I was thinking David Beckham and the Ice Spice Girl.
Maybe, but they're still married, right? So
correct.
I think that. Anyway, that was an underlying storyline. This guy wasn't just a baseball player. He was a pop celebrity. He was pop culture because of who his wife was. And I think the way that she carried on about being Yu Darvish's wife.
You know what I love? I got great stories, and I never want to let the facts get in the way of a great story. And Jeff fact checks me. I appreciate that. No, it's because you have a great memory, and mine's like gone. I knew there was something there, right? There's something salacious there, and I'm serious. I love that. That's fantastic. I throw it out there, and you go, "Well, that's kind of right." And it's true. It doesn't bother me a bit.
No, I'd completely forgotten about it, honestly, until you said it.
Yeah.
So you brought up your mistakes, and then I had to correct you. Then I remember.
Yeah, and I appreciate. I really do. I really appreciate it because I don't want to get false information out there. But by God, I love a good story.
Hey, I don't want to get sued. All right.
Yeah, I'm with you, 100%. Hey, we love you all being here. We're going to keep talking as long as you keep chatting, and we love it. Walker Buehler was just asked about. I don't think look, there's some narrative out there that the Rangers are still looking for a starter. And if they are, that's great. But they obviously need at least a couple of relief pitchers next, I think, Jeff.
Yeah. And I think bullpen now becomes the number one priority. I was starting to think a little bit today, and maybe it's because this had been done, or they thought they were getting to the finish line with Eovaldi. Chris Young today said bullpen is the priority, and then starting pitching, and then maybe a bat, in that order. And I took that to mean that either things went great with Eovaldi or things went to hell with Eovaldi.
Yeah.
And so they were changing their focus. I don't know that there are a lot of great starters out there other than Sasaki that you want to sink your money into. Now, I wouldn't mind if the Rangers signed a guy like Jose Urena of that ilk who can do both, start and work as a reliever. Buehler, I think Buehler's kind of in a Shane Bieber type of situation. He didn't pitch great last year after coming back from Tommy John, and he was hit and miss in the postseason. Obviously, ended up getting the last 3 outs, which is a big deal. But I don't know that he's, I would say that he probably would have been in the same ballpark as Eovaldi, maybe even a little bit better because he's younger if he'd had a better season. So I don't know that the Rangers want to take that on, because I think that if it's just a 1-year deal, I think he's going to. I don't know Walker Buehler, but I think it would be human nature to be like, I'm going to pitch my butt off and I'm going to go get a big ass deal the next offseason.
Sure.
Yeah.
I want to say he wouldn't be committed to the cause because he probably is, but I don't know that he fits that. And the Rangers don't really have a 1-year need now. I mean, you can never have enough starting pitching, and you know what happens with injuries and all that stuff. But the Rangers aren't really in the market for that, I don't think, anymore. So let's say Sasaki does something. You can't count on Sasaki, so maybe if you want some more insurance, fine. You go out and get what you can get while you can. Maybe this is where a trade comes into play. Then maybe this is where the Jordan Montgomery thing comes to life. If that's really going to happen, and I've had people tell me, yes, the Rangers are seriously interested in Jordan Montgomery, depending on how much money the Diamondbacks want to eat. All right, so we'll see what happens, but I would think bullpen, Sasaki starter, bat, depending on the market trends. Maybe bat gets moved up a little bit, but I don't know if there aren't a lot of the left-handed hitting outfielder DH types out there. Jock Peterson, obviously, I saw that in the chat earlier. Something I wrote about a long time ago and heard a long time ago that Jock Peterson, Conforto would be along the Rangers' lines. Well, Conforto signed for 1-17. Peterson turned down a really large mutual option with the Diamondbacks, or maybe they eventually turned him down, but he got the credit for the turn down. So maybe he's looking for 2 and something. I don't know if the Rangers have that or want to do that. Evan Carter's still a question. I think maybe 1 year of insurance with a left-handed bat like Peterson, or Max Kepler on a cheap deal, the Twins guy who was born in Germany, something like that. But yes, Peterson's a name, and if there are so few of them, and that's who the Rangers, again, if that's who the Rangers zero in on, we know they're gonna give it a hell of a shot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I talked about the X factor, one of them being Kyle Higashioka, because that catcher role is so important. But I think Jose Urena is the X factor of the bullpen. And, you want to give your flowers to Kirby Yates and Dave Robertson. But with, all of the injuries that the Rangers had this season, I mean, Jose Urena was such a quality swingman for this club, and how they were able to use him at different spots and really provide bulk innings. You never want to, anticipate a season as unhealthy as the Rangers had last season. But, Ron Washington reiterated today, the game of baseball, sometimes the baseball gods give you obstacles that you kind of have to endure. You can't always plan for the perfect season. I think that Jose Urena is just such a safety net for any club when you have a guy that can come out of the pen, be in different positions, and offer you 100+ innings. That is not an easy task, and Jose Urena did it incredibly well for the Rangers this year.
Yeah, and I've kind of been writing notes here on our reserve for DLLS paper, but I'd say on the 40-man roster, I think there are 10 starters right now. Eovaldi, DeGrom, Gray, Rocker, Malley, Dunning, Leiter, Bradford, Teodo, and Garabito. All right, Garabito. All right, fine. Dane Acker hopefully stays in the organization. Hopefully he survives the Rule 5 tomorrow. All right, so excuse me. That potato soup just came back on me. That's 11. That's 11 starters. Okay. Two haven't been in the majors. A few barely have been in the majors. That's kind of depth with a team. Now you throw in a guy who is going to throw you multiple innings out of the bullpen, or who could start. Jose Urena. All right. He can probably make more money as a starter, but at this point in his career, what does he want to keep starting? He hasn't been a great starter, but for a few of his seasons, he had a great year. He knows how baseball works. He knows he's going to get some spot starts. And with the Rangers bullpen needing veterans, I'm not saying he would work leverage innings, but he could. Who's to say he couldn't pitch the 7th and the 8th one day with a 2-run lead? Depending on usage, he could be a guy that's going to give you a lot of innings and get a lot of work, and maybe if it's another good year, then he can get a job starting. I don't know, but I don't mind that name, and I haven't looked at the free agent list recently, so I don't know who else falls into that Urena 3-inning guy mix, but they're out there. The Rangers will find them, and they'll probably get something good out of them. They've just always kind of done that. Going all the way back to Dave Bush, who's now the assistant pitching coach. 2014, Dave Bush was a really valuable pitcher for him. He had a high ERA, but by God, he took the ball in some bad situations.
Yeah.
I could see that. I could see that happen.
Yeah. And I had forgotten about our conversation with our colleague from the Phoenix group, but that Jordan Montgomery is the other starter, right? If the Rangers really are looking for another starter.
Yeah.
Wow. Add Jordan Montgomery to that mix, and you are really happy. And then you do have the flexibility to supplement the bullpen with some of the Cody Bradfords or even John Grays of the world, right? So that would be a really good thing. And let's don't also forget that when the season ended, Chris Young said a huge priority for us is Nathan Eovaldi. And right behind him, I'm paraphrasing, right behind him is Kirby Yates, right? So let's don't discount, or let's don't, count that out yet. If the Rangers were able to get Kirby Yates, I think they'd feel pretty good about building a bullpen, with perhaps some lesser names, obviously.
Sure. Yates is still out there, right? One of the beat guys today said are there any Kirby Yates out there? And Chris Young answered the question. I said, Bruce Bochy answered the question. I said, Kirby Yates is still out there.
Yeah.
And Bruce said, oh yeah, we're aware. So a good Bruce answer. But that's the next shoe to drop, I think, is a kick-ass reliever, or a couple. But a closer hasn't signed that I'm aware of.
No.
I wouldn't say Jordan Romano because he's got some injury deal.
Yeah.
A true Carlos Estevez, Tanner Scott. I mean, I would rather I'd rather have them than Kirby Yates. Honestly, just because Kirby's 38,
Sure.
You're going to sign them to a longer-term deal.
Yeah.
But Kirby's probably right there with Kenley Jansen, whose stuff has diminished. He's still Kenley Jansen. He can save you a lot of ball games. But so I wonder, are they? I don't know that that's a market you want to wait to set. I think, or to be set. I think you want to set it. And, I think Kirby Yates would do a 2-year, 2-20, 2-21, 2-22, rather than 1-14. Is that friendlier on your budget if you're the Rangers? Because John Gray, Tyler Mahle, they're making, I think, $30.5 million, $31 million combined this year. They're off the books next year. All right, so just go ahead and commit some of that to Yates. I will be interested to see if there's any deferred money in this Eovaldi deal. I forgot to mention that. I'll be interested to see that.
Yeah.
David Robertson deferred some money last year. Maybe Kirby Yates defers a little this year. I don't know. These guys want to be where they can win. They want to be where they're comfortable. They want to be where they're going to, get paid. But Kirby Yates, I think, would rather pitch for the Rangers for 2-20 than for the I don't know, the Marlins for free and 39. I think he'd rather pitch with the Rangers. So I think a 2-year offer to Yates would be pretty attractive if all these get 1-year deals.
All right. Well, man, we've been on for over an hour. We appreciate you because you've been here for us and with us, and we love that. We're here for you as well, right? We're here for the fans. We're trying to make this whole thing more fun for the fans. And look, this has made – how's your first winter meetings experience going for you?
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah. Right?
No, I love it.
Yeah, this has made the winter meetings like everything.
This signing has really, really made this. I was going to be a little sad if we didn't have any breaking news. So this is perfect.
We did, man. We did our first emergency pod. We love Indeed. We love all of you for hanging out with us, and we'll be back tomorrow. We'll be at the winter meetings most of the day tomorrow, and back with you at 4:00 tomorrow. We'll have our exclusive interview with Bruce Bochy and so much more. More news on Nathan Eovaldi, all coming tomorrow. Another DLLS Rangers podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.